IPE WU Careers. You want to learn about jobs that combine politics and economics? Our students have collected questions for people with interesting jobs that combine politics and economics. This is Harry. Harry works for UNIDO, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. This organization is a specialized agency of the United Nations that promotes industrial development for poverty reduction, inclusive globalization, and environmental sustainability. Harry's job title is that of a project associate for technical cooperation. He works on development projects in northern Iraq, as well as Sierra Leone and Zambia. For example, he is currently involved in a project related to the maintenance of a hydroelectric power dam by organizing the provision of training and technical assistance to workers. Suck It Funny Names is wondering, how did you get a job at UNIDO? What do you think were the most important factors that made your application successful?
I started at UNIDO as an intern, and this followed a very simple application process, which is quite common for interns within the UN. So it's an online application and then a very simple interview, and from there I started as an intern for 2 months. I think the most important factors that made my application successful was the fact that with a business background, with let's say a marketing background that focused on behavior change for social good, was an interesting perspective for the project manager at the time, who really needed to fill a role and was looking to bring in a fresh perspective to things.
Anonymous Lemur would be interested to hear any tips to prepare for an interview at UNIDO?
My advice would be to really try to be yourself and tailor your CV according to your values, and to try to explain how you bring a different perspective to the table, as well as to demonstrate how your skills and knowledge can be applied in the workplace, and not just to say, okay, I have this and this skill, but really what does that mean?
Silly Billy is pondering, working for such a huge organization, isn't it too bureaucratic?
Well, yes, okay. In some cases, one could think that it is too bureaucratic, but big organizations have procedures and policies in place because they need to deliver on a certain level of quality. They have really strict agreements with their member states on what and how things should work, and therefore there are certain protocols that have to be followed. So yes, and it could be considered maybe too bureaucratic, but on the other hand, it's a necessary thing.
Sa wants to ask, are there a lot of women who work in your field, or is it primarily dominated by men? And if so, why?
In a technical role in certain sectors, maybe yes, there are less women that work in the sector. But for example, at UNIDO headquarters in Vienna, there's a very even representation of both women and men. So yeah, it depends. It also depends, of course, on the type of project, the nature of the work.
WU Lover 23 would like to ask, is there a high turnover in your field at UNIDO?
In my field of work, yes, there is. You could say that there is a relatively high turnover because consultants, they have changing priorities. They come in, they deliver expertise, and maybe the project also only requires their services for a shorter period of time, and then they move on to something else. So, but again, it depends. So in other cases, I've been around at UNIDO for almost 6 years now, and there are other colleagues who've been working there for 15 years as a consultant. So it really depends.
Melanie Merlin is wondering, how much do you earn?
I am not going to disclose exactly how much I earn because there's a UN salary scale, and that information is available online. But I can give you that an example that at the headquarters here in Vienna, for my role as a starting salary, it's around 2,900 euros.
Axel Schweiß is curious. Do you have to travel a lot for your job, and how does this affect your family life?
On an average year, I travel around 4 to 6 times. And during my travel, it does affect my family life in a way. I have 3 children and a wife. And yes, they're young kids and they're used to me being around, so it is quite challenging for them. Also, given the locations of some of my travel, it does make my wife a little bit nervous, but we do everything we can on the ground to ensure that security procedures are followed.
Olivenöl wants to find out, who is the most powerful person you've ever met?
Typically, as a project consultant, you don't get to meet very powerful people, but I've had the fortunate opportunity to meet the Minister of Water Resources of Iraq and the Ambassador of Italy to Iraq.
Drowning in student loans wants to learn, would you choose this job and career again?
Yes, absolutely, I would. I really enjoy my work. I enjoy the dynamic of it and that it's meaningful. So yes, absolutely.
Donald Duck would be interested to hear, how does a normal day look like for you?
At the moment, I'm effectively performing 2 main tasks. One is a coordination role, and the other one is a technical expert in monitoring and evaluation. So as a project coordinator, this is the daily life of a project. So a typical day is day-to-day operations, coordination, communication, checking emails, meetings, developing documentation such as work plans and budgets. On the other hand, as an M&E expert, it's a much more structured and stable routine. I provide a lot of training and guidance to field teams to try and improve their capacities.
Maple Syrup Pancakes is wondering, do you feel that your job is dangerous?
It can be dangerous when you're traveling to certain places that are that have a high risk level. But of course, we have to follow certain security protocols, and these protocols are in place for a reason. And of course, if it's deemed too risky to travel somewhere, you simply don't travel there.
Inara would like to ask, what kinds of skills are necessary for your job?
As a project associate, you need the full set of project management skills. So this ranges from people skills, so communication skills, leadership skills, management skills, motivating a team. Then you also need negotiation, conflict resolution skills, problem-solving skills. You also need analytical and critical thinking and analytical skills. And of course, you also need to be organized, a very structured person.
Inara would also like to know, how might studying international political economy help me develop these skills?
IPE allows you to develop quite a broad range of skills that are required for project management, because you're dealing with people. So through the case studies that you do and the group work that you do, you're negotiating, you're trying to build consensus. You're also dealing with a team of people effectively. So that always helps to build your skills. You're trying to look at phenomena from a different perspective. You bring this a very critical and analytical thinking skills. You're also writing for non-academic audiences. So you're certainly building communication skills.
Not a creative name wants to find out, your job is to manage technical assistance with a focus on water. How is your expertise in marketing connected to your daily tasks?
Just to clarify, my study in marketing was eventually focused on using marketing tools and techniques and strategies for positive change. So it's not the traditional marketing for commercial purposes. Projects are geared towards delivering results and changing people's behaviors. And so I use this lens very often.
Green Sky 101 would like to know, does your work involve cooperating with local communities and people?
Yes, absolutely. This is a large part of any project's role is to work with people, local communities, and cooperate with them.
Green Sky 101 would also like to know, how are you integrating local knowledge into your work?
Throughout the project lifecycle, that's from design stage right through to implementation, monitoring, and evaluation, we are working tightly with local people, local communities, local stakeholders, and that's a guiding principle of our projects. It's their knowledge that they're going to use rather than an expert opinion from somewhere else.
Severe Baldness wants to learn, how is it to work with political decisions by local authorities, even though they might go against your personal beliefs?
When you develop a project, you, together with national stakeholders, you draw up what's called a project document. And this is effectively an agreement between UNIDO and the recipient country, which details what will be done in the project and what the expected results are. So that as far as possible removes any personal beliefs.
Severe Baldness wants to ask, how does politics intervene in the technical and engineering decisions your team has to make?
This is a really complex one. I'd like to say that it exists in projects, that there are these challenges, but I can't really talk about it.
My Funny Screen Name would like to ask, have you found it hard to work in a culture you're not native to?
Yes, at times it can be difficult, and at the beginning of my career I did find it challenging, but it certainly helps to try to build up an understanding of the political economic context in which you're working and the broader cultural ecosystem.
Just Wondering would like to ask, why should we study international political economy and not simply business to get a job like yours?
IPE brings a very interesting perspective to project work. The critical thinking of different macro level factors that can influence a project. It builds a certain lens that's very useful for projects, not only in terms of design and implementation, but also reporting. I think these two are complementary. So the business angle also has a useful lens at times, but often, of course, projects are indeed not just about profits all the time. It's about bringing social good.
Moss is pondering, can you share a really challenging situation you faced in the field and how you managed it?
So there was one situation where we were refused access to deliver a training on the project in Iraq. We asked the Ministry of Water Resources if they could provide us with their best expert to deliver that training, and together we improved the content and the skills of the trainer so that he could deliver the training, and obviously he had a baseline that was his own training, and we simply improved it, and in the end it worked out really well.
Want more information? Visit the Institute for International Political Economy. You will find podcasts analyzing current events, TikTok videos defining key concepts, and courses explaining the world.